She's ordering it like in a few minutes. You want to text her? Text me, Melissa. She's gonna order.
Good morning. Who do we have? Oh, hello.
Oh, we got started.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning, Michelle.
2 minutes late. Kathy, where are you in your drive to Charlotte?
I was just in Commerce, Georgia. We're not too far.
Gotcha. Good. How's traffic?
0. It's beautiful.
Oh, you lucky thing you. Okay.
I know.
All
I
right.
hope it stays that way.
I asked her that because my grandchildren are in Charlotte, and the last time I went, 2 or 3 weeks ago,
A lot
it
of
took me
traffic.
6 hours to get on a 4-hour trip, and same way. So good for you. I'm going to pray that you continue in a speedy manner.
Not too fast.
Thank you.
How's everybody doing in TV land here?
Good, thank you.
Good. All right. Well, let's get started. Happy Friday. We're glad you're with us for the third monthly. So that you are going to be the smarter of the agents in this office and out there. So I'm going to let Sherry take over because you did the plans and I'll jump in as we go along.
Perfect. So last month, it was requested that we cover special Stips. And so that is what we're going to focus on today. What you have as a handout in the folks in TV land, I've printed extra. So if you want to run by my office sometime next week, I will give you a copy of the handout that they have here in class today. But actually pull from FMLS in your GAR forms. It's special Stips. There are 12 pages of special Stips. I guess my first thing I want to say, the most important thing I want to say is that you should never be writing your own special Stips. We are not attorneys. And more times than not, we can do more harm to our clients by trying to make up a special step and maybe negating some of our clients' what would you call it? Rights. Thank you. To the contract. So always, if you feel the need to add special step into your offer, please refer to this handout. And like I said, if you misplace it, you can always go to FMLS and pull this off, or go to your GAR forms at your board of realtors and pull this off. And it's just a pre-printed list of special steps written by attorneys that actually wrote your contracts also. Right, I would say the second most important thing I want to say right now, and this is what I've seen a lot lately, is that when it comes to special steps, sometimes less is more, if you know what I mean. We don't want to special step it so much that the seller doesn't even want to look at the offer. Especially if you're in a multiple offer situation, the less special steps you have, I think the stronger your offer will look when you are writing an offer for a client. Agreed?
I totally agree.
So unless it's just something that your client has to have, the sellers do or perform for them to feel comfortable in buying this house, I wouldn't add too many special steps. So basically today what we're going to do is we're going to go through this and talk about every special step on here. But we are going to hit some highlights of ones I think are either most commonly used or when you should be using it and you're not. So we are just going to start from the beginning. And so I hope people on TV land can, since you don't have this in front of you, I'll try to, if you're able to take notes, I will read off the special step number so then you can take notes and maybe go back later and pull this up for yourself. If you look at special step 102, include this if you're writing an offer for yourself. I mean, you're supposed to disclose it on the front page of the contract under material relations, but I would suggest that you also add this, because everybody has to know, all parties have to know that you are a licensed agent when you are purchasing a property for yourself, or if you're selling a property for yourself. All parties have to know that you're licensed in the state of Georgia. So, and this would be a special step you would need to include for that. And like, look at number 4, the next one underneath it. If you're buying a flip or a rental, you've got to include that next step, special step 104. You've got to let the parties know that your intent is to resell this property. So if you're in the investment game and the flipping game, you definitely need to include special step 104. All parties need to be made aware of that. And I can tell you right now, I do not see that a lot on our agents that are doing flips. So please make sure you include that. What I just reviewed today for somebody in this room. Not saying any names.
I will demand him.
Number,
You don't have to give yourself away.
so special step 106, this is actually pre-printed verbiage on the front page of your contract, where it talks in section 10, where it talks about brokerages, and this is where you put, you know, Keller Williams Atlantic North is either the selling broker or the listing broker. And then 10C is what talks about material relations. That is what this says right here. The reason why I want to make you aware of this is if you are doing like a new construction, if you're using a form other than your GAR forms, whether it's a HUD home, a HUD contract, or whether it is a new construction that might not have this, make this the special step you would need to include if there is a material relation. So that's the reason why it's there. It's already pre-printed in your GAR forms and not necessary if you're using your GAR forms, but if you are not using your GAR forms, then you may need, there is a material relation in the contract, in the transaction, then you may want to go and copy and paste the special step right here. Let's go over to the next page. Agriculture on land, we don't see a lot of these, but we are going to skip over these right away because you may need it, you may not need it, you may only need it one time in your whole real estate career, who knows, but we're going to skip right over those because those are not ones that are frequently used if ever needs to go. Go to page 3. Special step 302. That is my favorite special step that never gets, this is my favorite special step that never gets used. So take a moment and read through it, and then you will understand why it is my favorite special step, but it never gets used. And then somebody explain to me what you think it means. Why is this one beneficial?
Should we read it out loud? Oh, they're seeing it on TV.
Really so good.
I know, I looked up and went, oh, never mind.
So who can tell me why this is such a benefit to us as buyer's agents?
You don't have to wait around and wait for the other side to know if they're going to return something or not. And if they don't, it's done. We're out of it.
You don't have to stay up till 11:59, the last day of due diligence, to send over a TNR for your client if you haven't come to an agreement of the items you requested on your amendment to address concerns. So this clearly states that at 11:59, if we don't have an agreement, this contract automatically terminates, and our clients, our buyers' earnest money has been protected. So it keeps that waiting to the last minute to try to get something finalized.
You know, Sherry, I have seen people that use the day of due diligence, the ending, that it ends, they do a special step that says it ends at 5 o'clock, so that you're not up all night. What do you think about that?
It's in our list to talk about.
Okay, all right, sorry.
There's a special step, but I do like that that special step is actually here in our packet that we're going to talk about. And I do like that special step, but still also include this one so that what if you're tied up and not near a computer or something at the designated time frame to get it back? I mean, to me, this protects our buyers' earnest money.
So you should add this all the time.
I personally would. This didn't exist when I was actually practicing real estate. Because, and the reason why I would add it, And it really, I guess it would be case by case, but more so I would add it than not, it depends. Is your buyer asking for stuff that the sellers do just to ask and feel like they're getting something? Because they're gonna buy this house regardless. If your buyers are gonna buy the house regardless of whether the sellers agree to do what we've asked, then no, don't include it. Because we don't wanna knock our clients out of a contract. Yeah, especially if there's a backup. So yeah, if there are backup contracts, you may wanna think twice about it. And if our buyers are gonna buy this house regardless of what the sellers agree to, then don't include it. But if it's some big ticket items that our buyers just absolutely do not want to move forward with a purchase, then I would include it. So that way we're not holding up their earnings, we're not obligating their earnest money if we don't meet all our time frames.
Like if
Or
we're
some-
if we're walking through it, we don't have it. There might be something foundational going on here with the foundation of the structure. So put it in then for sure, right?
Yeah, I would. If that's gonna be a deal killer for our clients,
Yeah.
for the buyers, I would, yes.
Okay. I think that's.
Oh. Perfect. If you flip through here, there's nothing really that is not kind of already, these items are sort of already mentioned in your, contract. I do like special step 310 though.
Me too.
So why do you like it, Michelle?
Well, because if it's winter time, how can they check the air conditioning? They can't run it. I bought a house where they couldn't check the air conditioning. Spring came, warm weather came, defunct.
Does everybody understand what she means by that? The AC wasn't able to be inspected?
At below a certain temperature, they can't turn that on. So you'll know heating's working because you're toasted. You just won't know that.
And I've been told it was 65 degrees, but I'm not
Yes.
certain if that's what it is or not.
I think so.
So if it's below 65 outside, they will not turn on your AC to
And
make sure it's
you know,
running.
To be safe, ask your inspector.
Yes.
Well, and also another situation when you would want to use this is in the wintertime when they have a pool and the pool's been winterized and covered.
True.
I mean, that would be another time when you would want to use this special step.
Or summer, when they're not gonna run the heating.
Yes. So keep that one handy. So that's a good one to use, especially if it's like a seasonal issue. I like 314. I don't ever see it. But if you're a listing agent and it's kind of in a contentious back the buyers and sellers and kind of everybody's not getting along or agreeing to things, if you're the listing agent, you may want to, and if they're asking, let's say the buyers are asking for the moon, but you don't feel really confident that they're gonna get this loan approved, and you might not know till the last minute, you might, as a listing agent, you may want to counter back on the amendment to address concerns of special step 314. And this just basically means that the seller is not obligated to start any repair work until a full loan approval. So what does that do? That kind of puts the buyer's agent staying on top of the lender to get the buyer's loan approved because the repairs can't begin until the loan's been approved. And then there's also, you've got days that everybody agrees that the contract will be automatically extended if the repairs aren't done by a certain date, the contract automatically gets extended.
Have you ever seen it where they put in something there where the seller isn't obligated to start departing from the property until there's written loan approval? How many?
No, I haven't, but that's a good one too.
Yeah. Yeah, because there are times where the seller has packed up, left, and now the house has to go back on the market.
So yeah, you could probably take this special step and just tweak it.
Mhm.
to
Yeah,
fit
let
that.
us look at it
Yeah,
before you.
but yes, but that would be a good one to use and just tweak it to reference the moving out part.
I mean, I would have thought this would be the norm. This is such an important thing. Why would the seller do anything unless the loan is approved?
Well, I mean, they might need to because there's,
It might be things that need to get done anyway.
if
for the
there's
next
a
buyer.
leak, you
Yeah.
wouldn't say, well, I'm not gonna fix the leak because it would
Yeah.
damage your property, but
And then if the first buyer fell through, they're gonna have to fix it anyway, and they're definitely gonna have to disclose it to the next person, so there may be things that need to be fixed anyway. Yeah, that you don't wanna drag your feet on.
You use your good judgment.
Well, yeah, and if it's
Right.
something like right now, if it's something where it's hard to get a contractor out to the property, then you may want to go ahead and at least get on the contractor's books, start the work. If that, there could be a shortage of people that actually do the actual repairs. On page 4, I don't see number 3 very, septic tank 318 very often. I used to see it more. But if your house is sitting on a septic tank that your buyer's purchasing, you may want to add this special step here.
It's required.
Which one is it?
on gov-
318.
It's required on government,
Yeah,
but
but it's not required on
conventional,
conventional.
yeah. Yeah, so
So,
if it's
yeah.
a conventional loan, that's where you really want to.
Add this special step, yes. So keep that in mind. All right, and then if you look, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 different termite special steps. If your client, if your buyer wants some sort of termite bond, termite warranty, and who can tell me the difference between any of that? Because I get confused with it. Michelle, can you help?
Well, I mean, there could be a termite bond, but you've got to go a little deeper and know if it's a repair and retreat and repair that, or if it's only a retreat. So you need to, during your due diligence, you should be asking for that. But do you know ahead of time? Maybe not. So,
Right.
you know, the seller disclosure, if you will read your contract, should state that, and it should state who you have contacted. I personally, as an agent, would contact them before, or at least during due diligence, so that you know that what they marked and what is real is real.
So yeah, you've got 4 different choices there, depending upon what may be already on the house that we just need to ask for an extension of, or to be transferred to, or if there's nothing at all, and it could be an older house. So you got 4 options to choose there for a termite, if that is something your buyer wants to ask for. Special step 331. This is my second favorite special step. So, you know that one pulled up here, like utilities, due diligence to begin. Basically, this says, and this is so important, especially if your clients are buying an investment property. Maybe they got investors gone in and done the like remodel, but didn't keep utilities on. Or it could be a seller who's already moved out of town and trying to save a couple dollars and has already turned off the utilities to the house. You definitely want to include special step 331, and it basically says your due diligence does not begin until you've got confirmation that the utilities have been turned on. I can't tell you how many times that has happened to me when I was in the real estate world. We would have our due diligence, we would have our inspection set up, and get to the house, and utilities would not be on.
So how do you know when you're showing the property?
The utilities are on,
Yeah, fetch,
Why,
no
you
light,
always do that.
oh, surprise.
flush the toilet
Yeah.
twice, flush it twice. Did you get that one free flush? So, hey, well, this is, like I said, this is my second favorite step, and it's so imperative that you include this, because if you don't, then our buyers are out of luck if the utilities do not get turned on during due diligence in time for us to have an inspection during due diligence. So very important, like I said, if it's an investor that flipped home and they've gone ahead and turned off utilities, or if it's a seller who's already left town and is trying to save a few dollars and start already turned off the utilities for that particular property. Because then you're in panic mode, calling co-op agent, they gotta get these utilities turned on. And it does state in your contract that the seller has to leave utilities on up until closing date. So that verbiage is in your contract, but it doesn't mean the sellers are going to abide by that. And it doesn't mean that the sellers even know that that's in the contract, that they're required to do that.
Why wouldn't the sellers know that it isn't in the contract?
Because the agent didn't tell them that it's in the
And
contract.
why didn't the agent not tell them?
Because they're not a Keller Williams Atlanta North agent.
Okay, well, that was a better answer. Because the agent didn't read the contract.
But that's true. That's true, right?
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
Any questions about that, guys? over. Page 5. I have highlighted special step 332. Walk through list items to be completed after closing. Basically, things are supposed to survive closing, and that's in your contract that things will survive closing. But this is not a bad thing to add, especially if it's a new construction or if it is a renovation project and things aren't completely done. This is not a bad one to add. And it's just reinforcing and reminding everybody that these things need to be completed. Then we've got earnest money deposits in consideration. The additional earnest money, if your clients are putting up more than one earnest money payment, then you may want to include special step 402. If they're going to break up their installments of earnest money, there's nothing wrong with that if everybody agrees to it. Special step 404, I think that's actually in the new construction contract, but if same thing, that if it's new construction and they're going to put up earnest money or construction deposits in different amounts, then that's there. Real quickly, side note, can anybody tell me the difference between earnest money and construction deposit?
What is the difference? The
Non-refundable.
earnest money has to be held by a brokerage and security doesn't have to.
It's construction deposit.
Construction deposit. Doesn't have
You're
to.
close. Anybody else want to give a shot at it?
I think on a construction deposit, you can't get that money back.
Correct. Construction deposit is non-refundable.
Right.
Because basically it's going towards whatever upgrades you selected in your particular contract. That's what the builder's going to use the construction deposit. A lot of people don't understand the difference between those two. Earnest money could potentially be refunded back. Construction deposit is not.
What happens, Sherry, if the seller, the builder is in breach of contract?
Is that?
I have been sold like 5 new constructions very recently. And what I've seen on those contracts is that they have like 3 days, most likely every builder is different. Most likely they give us like 3 days only for the buyer to say, I don't want the property, so the earnest money is going to be refundable. But if they decide to do any upgrades, so the security or the deposit consideration deposit cannot be refundable.
What if the title was there? They couldn't
No,
convey the title.
they say that they will speak with the builder, how they say, I read that part, but they will lose the earnest money. The security construction is not refundable anyway.
So they could just house 100 times.
Yes.
So-
And it depends on the builder consideration. They put it like that, builder consideration.
So should you be reading your?
Oh, yes,
builder
every time,
contracts?
because, yes, every time, because every single new builder is different.
Yes, very valid. Look at special step 408. This would be useful if, for example, if your client, your buyer may be a little tight on funds and they need to wait to maybe the next paycheck to provide, they can go ahead and give us the earnest money check so that we are the holders of it and we are receipt of it. But maybe we need to wait a couple extra days per what the contract spells out before we deposit it. That is what special step 408 is for.
Okay, I'm gonna play devil's advocate.
Okay.
If I'm the listing agent and I see that in there, do I feel real comfortable about their loan because they don't even have enough money for their earnest money?
Very, very true.
I'm sorry, we play freaking crappy.
But no, that is a valid concern if you're the listing agent. That would raise a red flag. I would agree.
Because they're saying that they have enough money to complete this transaction,
Just
at
not,
the time
just
of,
not in the checking account right this moment.
and if
I have a question about that.
what's that?
I have a question about that. In the purchase sales agreement, they give you a time that it gets wired, or when when the earnest money gets deposited, they give you a time on there. What's the difference between that and the special steps on this one?
So like purchase and sale agreement, you would put when it's turned into the holder. And then
Right.
on that point, per the contract, we have 5 additional days. We have 5 additional banking days to put it into our escrow account. But if you need a little bit, get it to us, let's say within 3 days of going under contract, just so that we know we have it in our possession, but maybe we need like 10 business days to stick it in the bank. That's when you would use the special step.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
And you know when I would use it, my brain is going 100 miles an hour. Let's just say your borrower is going to their 401k
Yeah.
to get their funds, or liquidating stocks that's not liquid. I would explain that to the agent and show proof of funds.
Yeah.
So my contract was accepted.
No, very good point. Yes. Yeah. Awesome. Any other questions on that one, guys? Because that one could come in handy if we need it too. On the next page, I don't know, on page 6. I mean, if you're in a situation where it is a bankruptcy and this contract is contingent upon the bankruptcy courts, you would definitely want to use special step 502. If it's a 1031 tax exchange, either for the buyer or the sellers, you've got special step 506 and 508. If this is a 1031 exchange for either side, you've got the special steps to include for that. And you would have to include these special steps, guys, if it's going to be a 1031 exchange.
And does everybody know what a 1031 is? Okay, if you don't, ask us later. It's
I'm
fine.
going to let you explain that one.
Oh, okay, but if y'all know, good.
Yeah, I don't see, you could use, if your seller is going to stay in the property after closing for longer than 60 days, then you may want to include special step 514.
And you all know that anything over 60 days, your purchaser, if they're getting a loan, now has to get an investor loan and put more money down potentially than what they planned. So just don't
Right.
fall in that trap.
So if the seller's going to retain possession of the property after closing for up to 60 days, you can just use a temporary occupancy exhibit. But when it gets to be after 60 days, it becomes a lease back. And this is when you would include the special step 514 and then also attach the appropriate lease exhibit document for that. Next page. I'm trying to look through here and see, I mean, like special step 522A,
I like
I mean,
that.
but isn't that already in the verbiage already?
No.
It's not, they took it
Yeah,
out.
they took it out.
Okay,
So I
there you
like
go.
that from the listing agent standpoint. We had one that it was 5 days prior to closing. The contract had been in motion for, say, 20 days, and the borrower never bothered to apply for a loan.
What?
Yeah.
522B.
I'm
five-
looking at 522A and B, and what are the numbers, what's the difference between the two?
I'd have to read it. Well, not say much. I don't know. I'll have to get back on
Either it
that.
does, yeah, the second one, there's an either or,
Okay.
but yes, if you're the listing agent, this may be one you want to include in the counter back.
Yeah, and you know what's nice about this is if you've used it, a lot of times the lender is not cooperative, would you say?
Yes.
Is that the word? And this becomes very specific, and it does ask for the loan estimate so that you know, if you've done seller contributions, you know, how that number lines up. there's reasons in here that as you get more skilled with the lending part, that these things are very valuable for the seller to know what's going on.
Yeah, I'm liking number special step 522A. The more I'm thinking about it, and for the listing agent, I mean, that definitely protects our sellers and making sure that the ball is gotten started and continues to roll
Correct.
with the buyer's loan.
Correct. Does it, and I have to reread it again, is there any verbiage in there that says they have to notify the seller if they change lenders?
Yeah,
Mm-mm.
that's in your contract.
It's in the
Yeah.
exhibit.
Well,
But not the special step right here.
Well, doesn't always happen, so.
So special step 524, this verbiage is already in your FHA and VA loan exhibit. It's not in your conventional loan exhibit, and I guess within the last year, we started seeing that more for conventional loans, haven't we?
Yes, yes. When it comes to health and safety issues, all three types of lending, conventional, FHA, and VA, FHA for sure, but conventional will do it too. Remember, the lender, that's their collateral. That's their guarantee. If they're buying a hunk of junk, you know, they may be requiring things to be fixed. It's got to be functional and safe.
So if your buyer was getting, I guess if your buyer is getting conventional loan, you don't want to include it, but if you're accepting a conventional loan, the sellers would want to counterback with this. Is that my thought process correct on that?
Yeah, good.
Because if there happen to be lender requirements, then that could, the buyers could be denied their loan, if we can't come to an agreement how those repairs would be done.
Correct.
But if our sellers come back with a special step and put a dollar amount on it, and who's responsible for it, that might keep the buyer in the contract. Okay.
It could. It could.
And I guess it depends on too, also, the condition, how old the house is and the condition of the house that you're making your offer to.
Yeah. But you as agents are out there looking at it. If you see that it is in disrepair, be prepared on FHA and VA that there may be items that they're going to require. You need to be realistic. I had an agent one time when I was on the mortgage side, we got the appraisal back and it had no flooring. It was just subflooring. And she goes, well, they're going to put it in later. And I said, well, no, the lender isn't going to go for that. So anything that you wouldn't want, think about it or ask us about it.
What I should do is call the lender and ask her, what is the repairs that you think that the FHA or VA appraisal might ask? Because this property.
You won't know. You won't know. It's going to be health and safety issues. If there's broken, if something is wobbly, a staircase, if it has no handrail, if there's broken windows, if there's raised cement, they won't know. I mean, the list could be long, but you visually are going to see the property. If you're concerned, take a picture of it and send it to the lender before you write that contract.
Yeah, that's a good point. And special step 526, the one right below it. Also, if it's a FHA loan, this verbiage is already in there, but this verbiage is not in there if it's conventional, correct?
Yeah, no, it's not in there if it's conventional, and really, the only thing that's going to stop it is if you go into condos.
Condos, yeah.
That's where you're going to run into an issue. Because not all condos are approvable,
Right.
period. And the listing agents don't understand that all the time.
I was supposed to say, special step 606, but we're not gonna spend a lot of time on that one. Read through it, and I think it could come in handy, but then at the same time, I've attached the special steps that Lynn LaCroix, our qualifying broker, sent to us a couple weeks ago, and I think we've sent them out a couple times. The special steps about appraisal and the escalation clauses on that, which we've got attached the back of this packet here. But, if you don't have your hands on that or can't locate those, then you could potentially refer back to 606 and use it. The appraisal determines the price, or the parties have a right to terminate. 610, I want to spend some time talking about this one. Your contracts, your guard contracts are not assignable. The only way to make them assignable contracts is to include special step 610.
Explain.
I was gonna let you explain.
Oh, okay, all right, darn it. So let's just say an individual signs up for a property and now they want to put it under their LLC or they want to sell it to someone else. They don't get to do that without this assignment. And we see it happen, I've seen it pretty often, where investors go in, identify a property, and then turn around and sell it to another investor. If you don't have this in there, your seller does not have to continue on and accept an assignment. Because remember, they were getting proof of certain things of party number one. They don't know anything about party number two.
So yes.
Someone unknown is laughing on the front.
There's a lot of people in TV land too that needs to hear this.
Yeah.
The way your guard contracts read right now, they are not assignable.
Correct.
Have to include a special step
And you know
to
what?
make it assignable.
Before we leave this page, quickly, 602, access to public road.
Oh, yeah.
It is a good one. If you go out to a property and there is a shared driveway, and that can happen, you better make sure there's an ingress and egress recorded at the county for a shared driveway, because otherwise, if it is not recorded, that they might be buying something that has no legal access. So, and I saw this happen in East Cobb. There was a shared driveway, and the party one that actually owned the property decided they hated party two, and they took that away. And they had a house that had no access to the street. So ask that question. It's odd, and the lender won't lend if it's not recorded. But why go down that?
Why wait till the last minute?
But why go down that road that really you can't go down, because then that property becomes landlocked. So unless they have a helicopter, they are not going in.
Yeah, that's a good one. Boat dock, I don't know too many people will be needing the boat dock special step unless you're a county or going lake property, you might need it then. 614, this is actually in your contract. We printed that verbiage, so you don't really need that one.
But don't think that because they address business days that every contingency hinges on business days. That's true. They do not. Only closing hinges on business days, because they have to be open. The banks have to be open. The attorneys have to be open to conduct business.
When do you think you might need to use special step 616?
Somebody guess. Put your broker hat on and guess.
So if the buyer
Relocating?
offer and they're trying to sell it themselves, or they're not serious, they're not serious about selling the house.
They haven't put the house on the market yet, but they want to make it contingent upon their house selling.
In another state,
So
is that what it-
It could be anywhere, it could be here, yeah. So you've got a buyer making an offer, but it's contingent upon them selling their house. They need the funds from their current home, but they ain't put it on the market yet. I mean, let's put the special stip in there. Let's get that buyer's house on the market ASAP. And they might tell you, oh, we're getting it on the market next week, but we're just waiting for the pictures to be taken. Or I just gotta get the garage cleaned out. I mean, they can have a million excuses why it's not on the market yet. This holds their feet to the fire, to make sure they get it put on the market.
What I like about it is that, I mean, there's some verbiage in the purchase lease agreement that has this in there, but this allows the seller to proceed without waiting. And if, let's just say the seller did a unilateral termination because they didn't meet it, then if the seller or the purchaser didn't sign to give earnest money, then we have to go through a 10-day letter. And this is very clear that we're not going through a 10-day letter. It just says the seller shall retain all earnest money is liquidated damages. End of discussion.
So why does this step say at a price not to exceed? From the seller standpoint, wouldn't you want it to have a minimum list price?
But, you know, have you ever, from a listing standpoint, I know when I was doing it, if we had a contingency to sell a property, I did a review of that property beforehand, because if you had an amount where you knew it wasn't going to sell, why would you take your
Yeah,
property?
it keeps the buyer from trying to ballpark it at the top of the market,
Gotcha.
because then it's gonna sit on the market longer.
Yep.
So let's get it realistic, let's get it at a price that's gonna get sold, so then you can turn around and buy my house.
Yeah, okay, got it.
Yeah.
So you're more concerned about their house selling rather than
Right.
having enough money
And
to actually
I'm
buy it.
also concerned about the competency of the listing agent that's not a Keller Williams on the other side,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
Okay,
So you're helping them out to set the,
yeah.
We're
Right.
helping them get
So-
their household as quickly as possible,
there you
by putting parameters on what they cannot list over.
Yeah,
To
no.
get it set.
go, brilliant, I like it.
Right.
Right.
You could, if there is a need to extend the closing date, then you may want to look at special step 816 and throw it in an amendment. 618, and basically just giving the sellers some additional consideration money if they agreed to an extension of
like
closing
that
date.
one.
Yes.
I like that one a lot.
Special step 620. I would see you guys using this if you're selling, if you've got a buyer and you're introducing them to a FISBO, the property not on the market. Let's get your commission established up front.
Only problem,
But
we don't like to go after commission because it costs a lot of money to do so. And you can't get blood from a turnip.
well, no, this is the sellers agree to pay it. That's the commission.
Oh, gotcha. Oh, so
Yes.
sorry.
Yeah, this is for a FISBO or an off the market.
Oh,
property.
that is good.
Yes.
You know what? It's good because we had an agent the other day, they did, what do you have to show? What do you have to have signed before you show a FISBO?
Right. to show.
The right to show unlisted property.
Yes.
And in there, it states what the commission's gonna be. This agent got to the very end, and the seller said, I'm not selling. I'm not paying you a commission, not my job. You didn't tell me. You kind of hoodwinked me through this. And the agent, because they were a good Keller Williams agent, said, you know, I'm not gonna affect my buyer because of this. This clearly makes that distinction, so that if they missed it on round one, they don't miss it on round two. We need to purchase it.
Right. Special step 622. I like it. So many years ago, before we had the counter offer form, and back in the old days, we still used fax machine, and you were countering back and forth the full purchase and sale agreement with your strikeouts and your initials and your written in new numbers and stuff, it would get really ugly. by the time you probably got under contract, they could not read it, because it's been back so many times. That's when this special step came about, because the special step has been around forever. And agents go and then clean up their bound contract, just make it really pretty and more legible. And you would include this special step that says, if there's, because I've gone and cleaned it up, if I've transposed a number or something, the ugly copy still stands, not the pretty cleaned up copy. And that's what this special step does. It protects the integrity of the messy version. You don't need the special step so as much these days, because we do have the counter offer forms. But if you ever are so inclined, or if the other party is ever so inclined to have a clean copy, which your purchase and sale agreement states that either party has a right to do that, then please include this special step. And once again, it just basically says that the original ugly version, those terms stand, in case I transpose a number and a pretty cleaned up copy. So if you're cleaning up a contract, just to make it look pretty, make sure you include this special step. Any questions on that one? So special step 627, Michelle, take this.
Oh, this is what we talked about before. See, I threw a little bit. I like it
I do
because,
too.
if all-time deadlines set forth herein shall expire at, you want it to be 11:59, so you're up all night?
No.
No. Put 5, 6, whatever your business, whatever works with your business model. That way, you're working within reason. I don't know about y'all, but at 11:59, I'm not very coherent. So, just put that in.
Yeah, and I would say, and it doesn't always have to be the same thing. And I would take each contract, and the parties are gonna be different for every scenario, and take your client, if your client is a school teacher, and she doesn't get home until 6 o'clock, and she can't get to a computer, and she doesn't live by her phone. Or, so kind of take that into consideration when you're trying to decide what time period to put here. Us being real estate agents, we live and die by our cell phones and our computers, and we're always able to do stuff. A lot of people don't work in those type of atmospheres, that they have access to do personal business and to their personal emails and stuff. So please take the parties into consideration when you're trying to figure this out. I would say 5 p.m. is probably like the worst thing you could put, but maybe like 7.
Yeah.
Give people time to get home, check their emails, have a discussion with their significant other if that needs to happen. So kind of keep that in mind when you're trying to determine what time period. But I love it. Yeah, because nobody wants to be up till 11:59, stressed out, especially if it's a Friday night. You want to be out doing other things, more fun things, than worrying about making sure you meet a time deadline.
Have you all ever had clients that abuse you at night? It's real hell,
Yeah.
No, you know what happened to me one time? I got the COVID and I was so sick, and it was only that day. The due diligence expires at 11:59. So I got everything done. The buyer and the seller agree with the terms. But guess what? I do everything on my computer, but I forgot to put it a click to be sent. And it was like, yeah, so I have to cover that part.
Okay. Yeah, we've all had boo-boos. Yeah. Boo-boos. And let me throw in, if you know that the property that your buyer is purchasing is under bankruptcy, which they're required to share, I think I would use the special step 624, because you don't want it to go indefinitely. Right. Because it's up to the court, and it could be bankruptcy, it could be probate court, if it's an estate, and then if there's a divorce involved, I like this special step 628 or 626, because these are things that can go on and on and on, and so you're trying to protect your buyer.
Yes, good point. Flip over to the next page, page 9. Special step 632. I love the special step, but I never see it. I don't understand why. If you're the listing agent and you've received multiple offers, your sellers have the right to counter multiple offers at one time. They can choose to counter just one if they want, but they also have the option to counter multiple offers. If they're going to counter multiple offers consecutively at one time, please include this special step. Because in essence, it says, hey, everybody, we've countered multiple people. The first one that comes back to us signed and accepted will be the bound one, is what this special step says.
So boogie boogie.
So yes. So it's putting everybody on notice that, hey, you're not the only one. We've countered back several. The first one that comes back to us will be our accepted contract. So please keep that. If you're on the listing side and you've got several, your seller doesn't have to. Your sellers can just choose to counter one. That is their prerogative. But if they want to counter several, make sure to use this special step right here.
I like that.
Not sign the counter, and play off of that. Seller not sign the counter, just send the counter.
But
They
then,
sign it, but send that.
well, if you're seeing a counter, it's been fine. Like, because you sent it, so
And I would
the
presume,
intent is your signature is there.
I would presume they're countering that at one, they're not saying, you get this and you get that.
But you can do that though.
Well, you could
But,
really
yeah.
make yourself crazy.
Yeah.
But
All the counters can be the same, or the counters can be specific to each one that they're saying.
Oh.
Um,
And this says it's gotta be faxed.
it says faxed,
It does, right?
does it?
By facsimile, at the following number.
Oh, it does. They need to update that.
no, I think I read.
Yeah, I would tweak that. Nobody faxes anymore.
Oh, good.
Good
Gareth is reading this contract. Very good.
They have,
Kudos
the
to
GARS
them.
form has overlooked that. That should not be,
So that should be by email.
But I
because it
would
have
say
a
email.
two-stamp.
email
Okay.
receipt, yeah. But
So would we be allowed to just change that?
You could, you could,
Yeah.
yes. Special step 635, and I get this question about 4 or 5 times a year, especially if it's a lease purchase. And does rent apply to purchase price or does it not apply to purchase price? Well, this special step, if you include it, will spell it out for you.
But be careful,
Why is that, Ms. Michelle?
because on financing, they are not going to allow an excessive amount of that payment to be applied toward their down payment or closing costs. Because let's just say that they rented a property and the property rents for $1,500 a month. And their rent is $1,500 a month. They can apply zero
Oh, okay. that's
to
good know.
that.
Okay,
Zero, because the lender says that then the seller is giving toward the down payment of which they cannot. So check with your lender about that, because if the fair market value of rent is $1,500, but they're paying $1,700, how much can go now toward
For 200.
purchase price? Yeah, 200, that's right. So be very careful on that.
I was not aware of that.
No, that's just the way that they do it. So don't create an expectation that doesn't exist.
Special step 636. Real quickly, if your client's buying a house and there's a due diligence period, that's when you figure this part out right here. And that's when you figure out all the things that you need to figure out to make sure the buyer wants to buy a house. But if they were buying a house with a right to request repairs, and school systems are still pretty important to them, then I would include this special step. If they're doing it with due diligence, there's no need for it, but if it's a right to request repairs contract with zero due diligence, the school systems are still very important to them, then include this special step. All right. Flipping right along, because we are right at an hour. I thought we'd get that faster. That's a good conversation. If you look on the next page, this one, probably special step 708, that's a popular one. Is that if your client feels, like I said, don't overstep a contract if you can help it. But 708 is a popular one. And then 712, of course, is a popular one, the home warranty, asking for the seller to provide a home warranty. Those are both very popular special steps that I see quite a bit. Special step 724, if you're the listing agent and there is something in this house that the homeowner is taking with them, a fixture of some sort, but they didn't want to take it down during the showing, so they made the house show better. I would include special step 724, just to make sure that there are no misunderstandings, that that light fixture or that mirror or that fixture goes with the seller when they move out. We have lots of arguments and disagreements and phone calls over what constitutes a fixture and what does not. And then the last 2 pages are the attached that Linda Crawl, our Coleman broker, has sent out to us a couple times. And it has to do with appraisal. I mean, whether the seller is going to pay extra money towards an appraisal and also an escalation clause if you're fighting with other offers. Any questions on any of that? I mean, I know it doesn't mean a whole lot until you actually get into the thick of having to use those. Do you have any words of wisdom on appraisals, like the difference between purchase price and appraised price and escalation clauses?
That has been a real sticking point. We've seen liar's poker going on, people using special steps, and our listing agents thinking, oh, well, great, they're gonna pay the difference and they're backing them. You know what I would say, if you're uncertain, if you know that your buyer is overpaying per house, we all know because we know a list price, and you get in those bidding more, come to us before you know, as you're writing that contract, and let's think it through. Each thing can be so different, and the whole idea is to protect our buyer. On the other side of the coin, if you've got a listing, you've got multiple offers, and you want to just run it by us and let us look at it, because what it says and how they perform can be 2 different things, and you could counter back requiring option money to make up that difference. There's different things you can do. It's pretty complicated.
Yeah, I had a situation yesterday where an agent came in, we're on the listing side. The house is priced at $450. The buyer had put a special stip that they agreed to pay up to $15,000 over appraised price up to list price, but the house I think appraised for 50 grand less or something like that. I told her to please come to me if they can't get it worked out, the seller. But the way she was describing it to me, because I think the seller was obligated to sell at the appraised at that price.
Plus the 15,000.
Yeah, the appraised price plus the 15. I think she had obligated her clients or sellers to sell at that new price.
So that's why.
So yeah, so be very careful about what you are obligating your sellers to when you receive these offers with buyer agreed to bring a difference and stuff. We don't want to force our clients to have to sell at a price that they're not comfortable selling at.
So is there any special steps that we can use in here?
It's in these last 2 pages, I think, that it covers our sellers.
Okay.
So yeah, we're running out of time, so we don't want to read through all those. I think
Okay.
just be very careful that we don't obligate our sellers to a purchase price that they're not comfortable selling at.
And quite frankly, if you're the listing agent and you've done your homework and your comps show that the value is $450, why would you? People are giving offers that they'll give $495 just to get the offer, just to get it accepted and say, you know what, we can negotiate when the appraisal comes in. So there's some things you need to think through. Do not take everything on paper as verbatim. It's just not working.
Any questions?
So that's a good point, what you said, the $495 example, that they'll offer $495 for $450, and now it appraises for $435. Then what do we do if we're the seller?
Depends on the.
Yeah, there'll be a lot more
Special
things
stip.
that we would have to look at the contract and read how the special steps are written up.
You know, if I don't do I don't do purchase and sales, but maybe twice a year. And this year I had one where we had 29 offers, a friend's little house, and we got these crazy offers. It was never gonna appraise. So I had that conversation with the seller, because if you don't, you've set them up to believe that they're gonna get $495, and who are they gonna be angry at? You, because you as a professional never shared with them. So as we talked through these 29 offers, I said, I've done my homework, here's what it is. And she was realistic in selecting an offer that was going to work. And did it work? Yes. Did it appraise at the price? Yes, it did. Would it have ever appraised 50,000 more? Absolutely not. If they're going to take that, then you ask for $50,000 option money and see how real they get.
That's true, yeah. That will shut down a buyer real fast. That's wanting to come in super high just to win the offer.
Yeah, and if it's FHA, you know, it didn't happen.
Right.
All right.
Yeah. Anything in TV land?
All right, thank you.
So guys, next month, any suggestions about what we can talk about? Any suggestions from TV land, what we go over next month in our contract mastermind? On one.
On listing, I would like to know more about listing contracts and talking to the seller.
I was gonna say back to basics.
Yeah.
We can go over your leasing agreement.
Just a lot of.
Okay, thank you.
That will take an hour.
I
That'll be a good hour. Spend. Yeah. Perfect.
I
Okay.
would love it. Thank you so much.
Leasing
guys.
agreements next month.
Okay, and we can refer back to special steps
Yeah.
that you can
That
get.
we need to-
That'd
So
be great.
we'll tie these things in.
Thank you, ladies.
Perfect.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.